Hey everyone, Dan Johnston here. I'm the Jack of all Ministries, here to help you make it happen. And today on this video, I'm going to teach you how to memorize the books of the New Testament in 5 minutes-ish. So real quick story. When I first got into church leadership, I was underneath a pastor named Scott Wetherell in California, and we were sitting down one day having a conversation, and he asked me if I knew the books in the Bible memorized in order. And I said, no, I hadn't. And he said, well, would you like to learn the New Testament? I could teach you in 5 minutes or less. And I thought, there's no way I could memorize, these 27 books of the New Testament in less than 5 minutes. And he sat down, he showed me something, and I learned the books of the New Testament in less than 5 minutes. Now, that's the same thing I'm going to teach you today. And, the reality is that this may not work for all of you. It probably won't. But if you're like a visual type person like I am, and you have a pretty decent memory, you should be able to pick this up pretty quick. Now, a lot of people memorize the books of the Bible with songs and stuff like that. But for me, this visual representation was the best way to do it. So here's how this is going to go. We're going to go over this 3 times in a row, and by the 4th time, you ought to be able to do this on your own. Okay, the first time we do it, I'm going to go ahead and just give it to you in a very detailed, story-like way. The second time we go through it, I'm just going to buzz through it really quickly. The third time we do it, you're going to do it, and it's going to be kind of weird because you're watching a video right now. But basically what we're going to do is I'm going to give you time to answer it, kind of like you're watching Dora the Explorer or something. And you'll kind of shout it out as we go, and then after that, my challenge is for you to go the 4th time by yourself with a piece of paper or whatever it is, and tell the story exactly the way that I tell it. And the truth is, if you do this every so often, especially if you teach other people this method, you'll be able to sink this in your brain pretty quickly. And I still picture this illustration in my head every time I'm flipping through the scriptures trying to find whatever is in the New Testament. So this really should be helpful for you, whether you want to use it just for your own personal knowledge, whether you need to know how to get to a book quickly, or you want to teach like a Sunday school or a kids class or something like that. This method is really, really helpful. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so imagine for a second that you're standing in front of a house. And in this house, there are 9 rooms, okay, so it looks like a grid like this. And then in the front of the house, there's a nice big porch, and there are 4 columns on the porch. Now, on this porch, each of these columns represents something important. These columns represent Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. John is a different shape because John is a little bit different than the other synoptic gospels, okay? So Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are the pillars on your front porch. But then you're going to go in through the front door, and the front door is, that's where all the action is, people going in and out, right? So because the front door is where all the action is, this front room is where we have the book of Acts, where all the action is. After this, you're going to go into the main room, and this is kind of the big grand entrance, if you will. This is where everybody is roaming around. Okay, all the parties end up here. Everybody's roaming around the book of Romans. Okay, then you're going to head off into this corner room here. Now, this first corner, you're going to think about the word corner, C-O-R, Corinthians, corner Corinthians. Okay, and not only that, but how many parts does it take to make a corner? You have 1 part here and 1 part here. So you have 1st and 2nd Corinthians. Okay, those are your next 2 books. Then you're going to head on down the hall into the girls' room. And this is the girls' room because, like the typical girl, right? The typical girl loves popcorn. And this room is just full of popcorn. There's popcorn everywhere. And you should be able to remember what books go in here because you know that girls eat popcorn. G-E-P-C. Girls eat popcorn. G-E-P-C. Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians. G-E-P-C is Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians. Then you're going to head on down into the dining room because you want to have a cup of tea. But you're kind of a weird person. You don't want just 1 cup of tea. You want 5 cups of tea. 5 cups of tea. What are these cups of tea? You're going to have first your 1st and 2nd long tea. That's 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. Then you're going to have your 1st and 2nd short tea, which is 1st and 2nd Timothy. And that leaves 1 tea by itself, and that is going to be the book of Titus. 5 T's, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, 1st and 2nd Timothy, and Titus. Then from there, you're going to bounce on over into the kitchen because in your tea, you want something special. Maybe you're not feeling well. So you want to go ahead and put a little bit of lemon in your tea. Okay. Well, if you're going to have 5 cups of tea, how many lemons do you need? You need 5 lemons. Philemon. Okay, Philemon, 5 lemons, you get what I'm saying. That's the next book, Philemon. Then you see a guy in the kitchen and he's the chef. You know he's the chef. Why? Because he brews the tea. He brews the tea, the book of Hebrews. And he's dressed a little funny. He has, kind of a suit on, not a suit, but like a tuxedo on, and he's got, like a bow tie, and he pulls out a gun, and you think, oh, this guy's dressed like James Bond. The book of James is next. Okay, James. Then you're going to bounce over to the room. This is the twins' room, the twin boys, and these boys love the story of Captain Hook and Smee and all those guys as they fight Peter Pan. So because they're twins, they're going to be dressed up like Peter Pan, and you're going to have first and second Peter in that room. Then you're going to bounce into this other room because you drank so much tea you have to go to the bathroom. But this is a very unusual bathroom. When you get in there, you'll see that there are 3 stalls, each with their own toilet. So what kind of house would there be 3 toilets in? That's really weird. Now, in these toilets, you open the stall, you see that there is the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John in there. You have 3 Johns in your bathroom, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John. And in the very last stall, you hear somebody singing. And what are they singing? Hey, Jude. No, 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 no. Okay, Jude is the next book of the Bible. Then finally, you're going to head into the very last room, everybody's favorite room of the house, the home theater, where you have a giant TV where you can get your revelation. So there you go. That's all 27 books in order with a story as you walk through a house. So if you're a visual person, you can picture the house and what is in each room. So as you're flipping through your Bible, not only do you know what the order is, but you also know what room you're in. So if you have to back up a certain distance, you kind of get an idea that you got to go back through a couple rooms. If you're in the book of James, you need to back up to, the book of Acts, then you got to rewind a few rooms to get there. So the second time I go through this, I'm going to move a lot more quickly because now I just want this information to sink into your brain as we go in. Now it's less of a story and it's more of a fill in the blank. So here we go. At the front of this house, right, in the inside of the house, you have 9 rooms. At the front, you have a porch. On the front of the porch, you have 4 pillars: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Remember, John is a little bit different. Then you're going to go through the front door where all the action is, people going in and out. That's the book of Acts. You get into the main room in the center. This is the big room where everyone's roaming around, book of Romans. Pop over into the corner. This is the corner room, so you're going to have 2 pieces, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, okay? Then you pop down into the little girls' room. Little girls love popcorn. Girls eat popcorn. GEPC. Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians. Bounce on down into the dining room where you're going to have yourself 5 cups of tea. You're going to have yourself your 1st and 2nd long tea for 2nd Thessalonians. Then you're going to have 1st and 2nd Timothy, okay? Your 1st and 2nd short teas, and then you're going to have your 1 tea by itself, which is the book of Titus. Bounce over into the kitchen. You're going to get yourself some lemons for your tea. You had 5 cups, so you need 5 lemons. Philemon. Then you're going to see that the chef is in there. You know he's the chef because he brews the tea. And then, of course, he's dressed up like James Bond, so the book of James. Then you bounce over into the twins' room. They love Captain Hook and Peter Pan and all that. They're dressed up like Peter Pan, 1st and 2nd Peter. Go into the bathroom, very unusual bathroom, 3 toilets, 3 Johns, 1st, 2nd, 3rd John. In the very last stall, somebody's humming a tune. Hey, Jude, book of Jude. Go into the final room where you will get your revelation. All right, so for this third run through, what I'm going to do is we're going to do this kind of Dora the Explorer style. I'm going to ask you a question, right? ¿Quiénes son los apóstoles? And then you're going to answer out Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, or whatever, right? So at the beginning, right, I'm going to ask what room are we in, and then you go ahead and say that. And then I'm going to ask you what books it represents, and then you go ahead and say that, okay? So let's go ahead and get this thing started. So you're in front of the house, you're on the porch, and there are 4 what? 4 pillars. Okay, these are the Gospels, and what are the books that are the 4 Gospels? Good. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Man, it feels so weird to just nod along. Like, okay, anyway, here we go. So then you're going to go in through the front door into the main room where all the what is going on. This is where all the action is. Okay, so where all the action is, that represents what book? The book of Acts, okay? So let's go ahead and go on to the next room. What room is this? Okay, this is the main room where everybody's doing what? They're roaming around, okay? Which represents what book? The book of Romans, okay? So let's go into the next room. What room is this? Okay, this is the corner room. Remember how many sides make a corner? 2. So we're going to have 1st and 2nd Corinthians. Okay, 1st and 2nd Corinthians. Good. Let's go into the next room. What is the next room? This is the little girl's room, okay? And what is the little girl's room full of? Popcorn. And everyone knows what? Girls eat popcorn. What four letters is that? GEPC, okay? And what books do those letters represent? Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians. Good. So now you're going to head into the next room, and the next room is, it is the dining room. And as you sit in the dining room, you're going to have yourself what? 5 cups of tea. All right, now, the first 2 cups are your first and second long teas, which represent which books? First and second Thessalonians. Then you're going to have yourself first and second short teas, which is First and Second Timothy. Then you're going to have 1 tea by itself, which represents the book of Titus. Okay, good. Now let's go into the next room, and the next room is what? It's the kitchen. And when you get into the kitchen, you're going there because you want to get something for your tea. You have 5 cups of tea, so you're getting 5 lemons. Okay, and what book does that represent? Philemon or Philemon or however you want to pronounce it. Okay, then you're going to see a guy in there. You're going to see the chef, and you know he's the chef because he brews the tea, all right, which represents the book of Hebrews. Okay, then you notice that he's dressed a little funny. Who is he dressed like? James Bond, which represents the book of James. Good, now we're going to hop over into this next room, and whose room is this? This is the twins' room, and they are obsessed with what story? Right, Peter Pan, okay? And so they're dressed like Peter Pan, right? And because they're twins, we're going to have first and second Peter. All right, so let's head into the next room. What room is this? This is the bathroom. It's an unusual bathroom because there are 3 whats? Toilets, right? Which represent which books of the Bible? First, second, and third John. And then the weirdo in the last stall is singing what song? Hey Jude, which represents the book of Jude. Okay. Finally, we get into the last room. What room is this? The TV room or the home theater. And this is where you're going to get your revelation for the book of Revelation. Okay. So good. All right, well, I hope you did well. I hope that you found this easy, and I hope that this was a way to just sink this information into your brain. What I recommend that you do with this now, if you can, is get a piece of paper, a whiteboard, a drawing app on your iPad, or whatever, and do this by yourself 2 or 3 times in a row where you can do it with no help. If you get hung up, come back to the video, give yourself a reminder, and then do it again. And once you get it done, 2, 3, 4 times by yourself in order without any mistakes, walk away from it. Give yourself an hour, 2 hours, maybe even go to sleep and try again in the morning, but come back to it and see how much of it stuck. I'm pretty confident that it will stick really well, and if it doesn't, go over it a few times and you'll have this down. For me, I learned this 15 years ago in less than 5 minutes, and it still sticks with me today. Still, every time I open my Bible and I'm scrolling through in the New Testament, I'm going back and forth, picturing the house in my head as I move around, because it's really just a great way for me to visually see the New Testament as I'm navigating it, and I hope that it is just as valuable to you. Well, that's going to do it for this video, guys. I hope that you found it helpful, and if you did, I'd appreciate it if you consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel, because this is the type of stuff that I love to tackle. And with that, I hope that you have a great day, and I'll see you on the next video. Well, I was going to ask you how you did, because I'm still in Dora the Explorer mode for some reason. I'm the Jack, I'm preacher, no preaching.